If I, as a gamer, had to age myself with a single question, it would be, does anybody else miss demo discs? I remember having signed up to a subscription for PlayStation Underground, which was basically Sony's version of Nintendo Power, and they came with game discs that contained a collection of demos for popular or upcoming games at the time. And it was on one such disc from issue number 58, I believe, where I played the demo for a little number called Mister Mosquito. I never got to play the full game, but I do remember playing this demo more than a few times over. It was so odd that it just lived rent-free in my head for over 2 decades now. And now that I am a giant man with big boy money, I decided to track down a copy of it and play it for old time's sake. I mean, I was, but then I started seeing what it goes for online and yeah, I'm not doing all that right now. I was ready to give up on it, but I swear Sony was listening to me when I was having conversations in my circles about wanting to cover this game because it showed up on the PSN store the same week for $10. So I'll both shout out Sony for spying on me and myself for manifesting it as I usually do. Mister Mosquito was the product of a developer named Zoom who have been around since the late 80s, and I basically have no experience with any of their games, especially because it seems like Mister Mosquito is one of their best known games, combined with the fact that they only made a few throwaway WiiWare titles after that and nothing since. It also seems like the game did not sell well on release, less than 200,000 in Japan and even poorer everywhere else. So even though a sequel was surprisingly greenlit, it was never released outside of Japan. And while I'm at it, I appreciate the US cover art, which is pretty straightforward, because when I saw the Japanese cover art, I feel like this appeals to a very certain type of person, if you know what I mean. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if this cover is on WikiFeed or something like that. Don't look that up, you little freaks. But now I'm getting sidetracked, so let's review Mister Mosquito from the PS2.
Hey, yo, Giant, let's go!
We begin with what I can only describe as a text-to-speech type of voice giving us a spiel about seasons and being a mosquito, with our objective being to store enough blood to survive the winter. Basically a cross between a vampire and a squirrel. We're then given a glimpse of the titular Mister Mosquito himself flying into the residence of the Yamada family, our primary victims. The family is composed of the father Kenichi, the mother Kaneo, and the daughter Reina. Summer is upon us and they're going about their day plotting out things like an annual family portrait, which Reina objects to, obviously, because she's a teenager and low-key hates her family for being lame or some shit like that. She removes herself from the conversation just in time for us to make our first move. Right away, the gameplay is kinda weird. I don't know if this makes sense, but imagine if Star Fox's all-range mode controls got combined with Metal Gear-esque stealth mechanics, but the only objective is resource collecting and extraction. You have to find a prime time opening on each character in order to do what a mosquito does. Suck! You can interact with things in the environment to help create those openings, usually by the way of an animation reset. Then you land, click the right stick to start the process, where you start rotating the analog stick as if this was a Budokai game, even though this was way before that, stay with me, and you draw blood until you fill a capsule with it by keeping the cursor in this blue area. Be careful though, because if you get a little too greedy, not to mention that during the process to get here, you'll possibly get noticed, which triggers an alert mode where you have to avoid getting swatted with extreme prejudice and hit some pressure points to calm the humans down. At which point, with a little effort, you'll complete the stage. You repeat this for every stage, but it seems like the game has favorites for who and where you need to harass. As a matter of fact, there's something overtly horny about it too. Never you mind when you hit pressure points on people, they moan. In the very first stage, you have to get the blood from Reina's inner thigh, then we get it from Kaneo's legs. They clearly are just interested in disrespecting Kenichi though, because his opening is right in that egregious ass comb over. Mind you, the trophy list doesn't have any specifics about this in the description. It just says clear the stage. Before I knew this was on PSN, I was playing it on an emulator, and the niche community that knows all about this on retro achievements were feeling that, because the achievement list says suck the blood from his baldy. And notice the description on the 4th stage. So we spin the block on Reina while she's taking a bath, taking the blood from her barely censored exposed chest. If that wasn't blatant enough, look at Mister Mosquito's eyes during this stage. I know what you are, you little shit. Also, the random excited yelping whenever you inject his needle into someone. Also, the vintage-styled adult film music at the end of every stage.
How was it the first time? I hope you enjoyed your first blood suck.
In between stages, we see the family getting wiser to their little pest problem, so they start taking measures like bug repellent, and we see Reina doing boxing exercises in her room while Kaneo does this. And I'm not sure what Kenichi is doing with this flower. I'm not even gonna try to be clever. I'll let someone explain it in the comments if they know what this is. We get away each time, and just when you thought Reina was getting the most abuse here, we then get introduced to her friend Ayaka, whom the disembodied voice describes as coming from a wealthy family and is having her first ever sleepover at the Yamadas. So naturally, she gets disrespected the most because where every other character up till now had 2 spots to draw from, she gets like 6 or something. I'm serious. Her knee, her belly button, her back, her armpit, and then she drops her glasses and starts pulling a Velma on the floor because she can't see. So the game has us add to the umpteenth insult to injury by hitting her eyelid. At this point, the family decides enough is enough, so they bring the fight to you and start trying to spray you down or pull Street Fighter moves or both. So you hit their pressure points to knock them out one by one, taking the spoils of war as you leave. Somehow, this apparently still isn't enough because the Sky voice tells you then to spin the block on them again while they're all passed out to finish up. After which, the game finally ends with the Yamadas doing that family portrait, which Kaneo had been dead set on the entire time, and Konichi co-signing that they do it because it's their anniversary, prompting Kaneo to start swooning because he remembered. They set up for the photo, and then here comes this little asshole with a photobomb to put a cap on his torture of the family. The credits roll, and then you're greeted by a results screen, and if you're anything like me, a message comes up that we didn't fill all the EX tanks, because that was a thing too. And every one of these stages, you're told that there's a number of them throughout, so you find these extra tanks that require filling alongside the main tank, which shouldn't be hard because a lot of these areas are big and empty. I say that, but they're hidden in some really obscure places that you probably wouldn't think to look right away, so you end up having to look at every nook and cranny throughout these places. There's also some food items that claim to give you bonuses. Far as I'm concerned though, it's just for completion's sake because I don't notice the benefits at all. Back to the extra tanks, as if you needed a strong metaphor for them being extra as fuck. If you reach the point where you fill this tank, it bigs Mister Mosquito's back, complete with the flying stealth equivalent of fat rolling from Dark Souls while trying to control your flight. But whatever, I did it because this game is not long. It only took me about 2 hours to beat it the first time, so I ran it back. The second pass completed, the game lets you know that you survived long enough to terrorize the Yamadas for another summer, unlocking the second summer campaign. TLDR, this is hard mode, with some changed dialogue, which I already didn't care much for. I couldn't figure out where to tastefully add that into this script, but I need whoever handled dubbing for this game to get their ass beat, because I can't tell if they hired Japanese actors to dub this in English and they speak in a broken accent, or if they hired American actors to do the most diabolical English accents.
Isn't it the time of year to take a family picture? I've been looking forward to it.
You little pest! I'm boiling with rage!
You've got an insect bite, Mom. Look, it's swollen. Rub some aloe on it. Hate it. I can't believe it. That's so unfair. You have to rub some aloe on it.
Yodel-lay-hee-ho! 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 Yodel-lay-hee-ho!
And that second year dialogue does very little when it's essentially the same game again, but now they're like, ah, you have returned. Yes, I have, and I'm not sure if I cared enough to suck blood from Kaneo's feet or your baldy again. I also am once again face to face with the fact that an entire dev team was invested in making a bunch of raunchy gameplay centered around a schoolgirl. Yeah, I know what y'all are too. Nostalgia be damned, this is probably the most goonerific game I've ever played, but I dare say this might be one of the most unique games I've ever played. I don't know that I'd recommend this to anyone personally, but if you're looking to play something a little odd, then $10 on PSN is better than $100 on eBay. What can I say? At least I can finally scratch that itch after 2 decades. Ah, shit, was that a mosquito pun? If any of you have ever played Mister Mosquito, can you let me know how you feel about this one? Drop a comment down below. I do read pretty much every comment and respond when I can. Meantime, maybe drop a like and subscribe to the channel so you can be around for what comes next. That'd be dope. You can also find me on Twitch, where I also played this live, but I also play tons of things that you don't usually get covered here. Let me also take a moment to shout out my patrons. I appreciate all of your support, and if you want to support the works on this channel, make sure you check out the One Sleepy Giant Patreon, where all are welcome in the Sleepy City crew. But that's all we got for today, so thanks for watching. My name is Hector, and I'm One Sleepy Giant. I kind of feel like I need to take a shower and get clean after all of this, and then I'll take a nap, so let's pick this up later, okay? Take care of yourselves, everybody.